All right, here we are in Westerly, Rhode Island. My name is Mark Hummel, and welcome to Mark Hummel's Harmonica Party. We are sitting in the basement of the Knickerbocker.
Yes, we are.
In Rhode Island, and this is Mr. Gregg Piccolo, founding member of Roomful of Blues, and I've been wanting to speak to him for quite some time. So Gregg is the original tenor player and also vocalist, and now you play guitar as well, right?
I have, for the last, I don't know,
30, 40 years?
Almost 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. So we're just going to talk about Gregg's beginnings in music, and I interviewed John Nicholas, I interviewed Duke Robillard, and I think you're the first horn player besides Terry Hank that I've interviewed.
Uh-huh.
You know Terry, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know him personally.
Right, but you know his playing.
We know.
Right, and I'm sure you guys got a lot of similar idols that you listen to.
We may.
Yeah,
it's very
I
possible.
wouldn't be surprised. So anyway, as I recall, I'm going on memory here, but as I recall, you and Duke were both in the band in Roomful of Blues in 1968, is that correct? Or was it 70?
I was in, Duke and I had played together before Roomful in a rock and roll band.
Oh, okay. All right.
And when he started Roomful, I went off with my own rock and roll band. I didn't join him then, but a couple years later, I think it was 67 or 68, I was the harp player in whatever version of the band he had at that point. And I'm not even sure it was called Roomful of Blues.
I don't think it was, yeah. No, I don't think it was.
I'm that last person you should ask about the true history of anything.
Ask who? You're the last person.
Because everyone has a different version of the way I remember.
Right, no, I know. I'm like that too. I have to have comparisons. Yeah, comparing opinions on things.
The first time I ever played here at the Knickerbocker was 60 years ago.
God.
It was a wedding.
That's amazing.
I was 13 years old.
13?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Well, what got you started on the horn? How'd you get started on saxophone?
I always liked the sound of tenor. When I was in the 50s, I would hear stuff on the radio with a tenor on it, and I liked that sound. So I always wanted to. I just had that sound in my head.
Yeah.
But by the time I was old enough, I didn't know who was playing on any of the stuff I was hearing. Mm-hmm. But by the time I was old enough, they were gone. The Beatles were here, and the Rolling Stones, and everything.
Right.
So I just used it sporadically, which is still kind of how I use it.
Yeah. Well, who would you say you found out about after a while, like that you had been listening to without knowing who they were? Lester Young, people like that?
Lester Young, Coleman Hawkins, Illinois Jacquet, Arnett Cobb, Gene Ammons, Sonny Stitt.
So you heard all those guys early on, didn't know who they were?
Well, I may have. I didn't figure out who they were until I joined Roomful until I was 19 years old.
I see.
And that's when the horn version of Roomful came into being. Mm-hmm. And it was two horns the first year, Rich Latai and myself. Okay. And I played harmonica in that band too. So,
really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I had to let it go, man.
I had no idea.
It hurt my lips. These guys are nuts.
Yeah, we are, man. We like Dave Myers said, we just kind of blow our brains out through our harmonica.
If you can do it without your lips bleeding.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I remember the harps used to swell. Remember when you get too much saliva? And they would start to swell, and you'd be cutting your lips all up.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I didn't know why, but.
Now, did you start singing right away, or?
I sang. I started a band when I was 13.
Uh-huh.
I had an alto, but I sang all the songs, and I just I was the leader of the band.
Right.
And I think that's...
Kind of goes with being the leader. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And I had a great teenage, hood, or whatever, teenage hood.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was, we always had work. I was in school. I was in junior high. Towards the end of junior high is when I started the first band, and stayed that way all through high school. Played in the summertime down on the beach, down Misquamicut, every night.
Yeah.
And it was, I used to really feel like I felt more like a star back then.
Did you?
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
I didn't know any
As a
better.
teenager, right. No, I could see that. I could totally see that, yeah.
And ever since then, it's been like more humbling and more humbling.
That's great.
And people,
I love it.
People say they like, they love what I do, and I say, you don't know who I listen to.
Right.
You're telling me
Right.
that right now,
Right.
And I accept the compliments, but I can't do the guys who I aspire, to. I
To
can't
play like,
do
yeah.
what they do.
Yeah, right.
I try, but
Yeah. And what's weird is that we're such a tiny little sliver of everything. You know what I mean? I mean, the musicians that are into the genre we're into, we're such a tiny little sliver. And then you have an even tinier sliver of the greats that were,
I can't argue with that. And in this area, nobody ever even, maybe someone knew about that music, but when I decided to join Roomful when I was 19, I was leaving my rock and roll band that was making, it was all relative.
Right.
But there was no market for Roomful here. And
Right.
for what we did.
Yeah.
I just knew I wanted to play with Duke because he was so good.
Yeah.
Still is.
What kind of gigs were you guys able to get in the early days of Roomful?
I was booking the band too.
That's
I used to
right.
take a phone book from a different town and go to a different town every day, look in the phone book, look up bars and places that might have music, go in there with a tape, and that's how we got gigs. That's
Isn't that amazing that you could go in with a tape and get gigs?
yeah.
That's like an amazing thing.
And it's so different now. It's sad and it's good, but it's sad at the same time. There's no middle ground anymore. There's nothing. There's everything. And there's really no in between. I don't know how you even do.
No. I don't know how I do what I do either.
I love to play. I'm happy when I play.
Right.
If one person likes what I do, that's all I need. I'm because I'm not selling to the masses, for
Right.
sure.
Right.
So I've learned to accept, and I'm 73 years old, so I'm not
Now,
expecting anything.
you're younger than Duke, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duke's 75.
Right, okay.
I think he'll be 76
Yeah.
this year or something.
Yeah. So when did Doug James join? Was he 75?
71.
Oh, 71,
I think.
okay.
Yeah, in the late summer of 71.
Okay.
That's when Duke had left the band, gone to Maine, taken his coveralls, dungarees off,
Right.
come back, and he became the Duke.
Right.
He was Honey Bear before that.
He was, that's right.
He was always the best. Even when I met him when he was 13, he was great.
So you were like 11 when you met him?
I was 13. He was 15.
Oh, he was 15. Okay, right.
He moved into this town, and he walked up to me. I was playing at the YMCA. They had a teenage thing on Friday night. And he said to me, after we played the set, and I didn't know him, he said, "What's your favorite songs?" I said instantly, "Reel and Rock and Roll Over Beethoven and Around and Around." And then he said, "Have you ever heard of Chuck Berry?" And I said no.
That's funny. That is funny.
I heard of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Dave Clark Five.
That is so funny.
So
Yeah.
my favorite songs, unbeknownst to me, were all
Chuck Berry songs. That is so funny. Yeah, that's great, man.
So that's how I met Duke.
Yeah, that's great. So, who were so besides like those rock and roll songs, what were the first blues songs you can think of that you were into?
I had, when I was started to explore, there used to be record clubs like.
Right, I remember those. Yeah, Columbia Record Club. Yeah.
And I remember I ordered the Best of Muddy Waters.
Okay.
I love that cover.
Right,
it's just,
right.
And it's a compilation from the other records, I think.
Right.
So Big Walter was on there, Little Walter was
Right.
on there. I don't even know who the person was.
Right.
And the first time I heard a harmonica, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was
saxophone?
a violin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I thought it was a saxophone. Yeah, when I first heard it.
The only thing I could think of is like, what is that? It's like, so that's. I still love that record.
Oh man, tell me about it.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it's a very heavy record. Yeah. So, so you played in the early Roomful. You said you played both harmonica and saxophone in it.
In
1968?
In 1970 to 1971, I played this. Rich and I were in the band, two saxes,
Right.
and I was still playing harmonica. I had played before that. I was in the band once before I joined, kind of permanently, and then I went back to my rock and roll thing.
Okay.
I remember playing in New Haven, Connecticut. It was, I don't know if it was cold. And I'm playing the harmonica, and my nose is running.
Oh,
over.
man.
And I got a big schnaz.
That's when you gave it up, huh?
I said, "This ain't for me."
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. That sounds horrible. Yeah, I can't imagine. So, what were your first recording was on? Was that on Rounder? What label was that first one on?
Roomful?
The Roomful one, yeah.
We made a couple of 45s under the Room Tone label. Our own label.
Right, and that wasn't Barry's label, was it? Barry Broadbent?
No,
Okay.
that would be
That
something.
was Blue Baron or something?
Oh yeah, I remember
Is that
that
what
guy.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the band. I think
Yeah.
that was Black Cat, maybe, or
Okay,
one
yeah,
of the bands
right.
that we had.
Yeah, because Barry and Franny both knew my friend Barry Broadbent. He was, I think, one of the managers.
You know Barry?
I knew Barry really
Oh.
well. He did the first record on me in 1979.
Cool.
Yeah, Tree of Hope Records.
Is he still around?
No, he died. Man.
I think he moved to Michigan or something. Right?
I don't know. He lived in San Francisco when I knew
Oh,
him,
yeah,
but I
California.
remember he moved somewhere else. He ended up marrying, I think, a lady from some country in Asia, I think, or something. I'm not sure. First, he had a Asian wife, and then they divorced, and then I don't know who he married after that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't know him. I mean, I knew him. We were friendly with each other, but he was in
Right.
Providence with Duke.
Right.
They all lived
Right.
together.
Yeah, him and Franny and Duke.
And I wasn't in the band then anyway,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I was down here.
Right. So, you were in the band from 1970 until what date? You were in
Until
that band for almost 20 years. weren't you?
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah, it was April of 1994.
Right.
So a month before my birthday, it would have been. I think it was 25 years.
That's a really long time.
Well, I've been out of the band for over 30 years.
For over 30 years, okay. Now, at one point, did something happen with your voice where you lost your voice or something?
I had polyps and
Oh, you had polyps.
I
Okay.
was tearing myself to pieces with
Right.
what I was trying to do with that band. And,
Right.
I just haven't got the chops for that.
Now, did you ever take vocal lessons?
I did afterwards.
Afterwards, yeah, right. That's the kind of thing we'll get
But
you.
I'm not. My voice is, when it's there, I'm really happy.
Right.
People like my singing.
Right.
But I'm not really a singer. like I can't get out there every night and do it for 500 nights or 300 nights a year. I don't know how guys do that.
But it seems like your voice has really come along over the years and developed into something. Let me move this a little bit closer.
I have, I really try. I think I have it one day, and I know exactly what I'm doing. Then I start singing, and I said, "What happened?" I knew what I was doing.
Well, there's a lot of variables with singing too.
Tell me about it.
The air, how dry the air, or how humid the air is. Rest is a huge part of it. Yeah, there's just so many elements that go into it. So how long was Curtis in the band? He was only in the band for Curtis Salgado was only in the band for a year and a half?
After I had my operation, they were using Keith Dunn.
Oh, okay, that's right.
And I said, when they said, we want to get Keith, I said, well, if we're going to get a singer, we should kind of, and not that Keith wasn't great at what he did, but I just didn't hear him the same way, the kind of thing that we were. At that time,
to Chicago, maybe.
He knew more about what he was doing than I did, so I probably should have known better. But I said, well, let's pretend we were starting from scratch. I'm not going to be the singer anymore. So who is there? And I knew about Curtis, and I knew that he could do anything pretty much. But he wasn't over his demons yet.
I remember. I was there. Duke left in what year when he left for Robert Gordon? What year was that?
It was the late 70s.
Late 70s.
I think it was 79 or
79.
Maybe it was.
Okay.
Luann came in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We were playing here after Duke left. It was like Thanksgiving or something. And Stevie had never been here before, so we had Stevie open for us.
Wow.
Luann was with him, and I remember we paid Stevie $30 to open for us all together.
Well, I bet he didn't forget that one.
We helped him to pay his dues,
Right. Well, yeah, that's reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that was very embarrassing when I say that now.
So did she jump ship with his thing and go right to you guys?
She did. Just at night, she
up and left.
She joined, and all Stevie said, well, he said,
"Good luck.
I had her. Now you got her." And then she went back to Texas. She didn't stay with us that long.
Yeah, right.
She was great, and we did all this stuff that we should have recorded with her.
Yeah, what
and
a shame,
she wouldn't
man.
stay for one extra day.
Oh my God!
She knows that I'm still mad at her.
Yeah.
For that.
Now, did you work with her after that at all?
Well, I was with Jimmy. And Jimmy.
Right. That's right. That's right. What am I talking about? Yeah. You were with Jimmy for a long time.
Well,
Jimmy Vaughn worked.
He had me on a lot of his records, and he always would call me when he was making a record, and I'd do one song or two songs, and it was a good setup. And then when he started, what the Tilt-A-Whirl band became, which is more of a straight ahead, getting obscure country blues songs and turning them into blues songs and stuff like that. I mean, I loved his original stuff, the kind of space stuff. I loved that.
Right.
But he was just doing what, he just does where his muse takes him.
Right.
And he's a great guitar player. He's the most, I hate to say it to the exclusion of other people, but he is the most original guitar player I ever heard.
I agree.
And he's like Louis Armstrong to me.
Yeah.
I call him Louis, because he has a great tone.
Yeah.
And he doesn't waste anything. And
right.
He uses a lot of space.
He knows how to not show his hand every time, which I really admire.
Well, it's just his style, and he developed that from listening to old guys.
Yeah.
And he turned it into his own thing. So
right.
He's the most original.
I agree.
Of anyone that I ever heard.
I agree.
And he's the best rhythm guitar player.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
he's
not
phenomenal.
that he's not. I love him the way when he solos, but
Yeah.
he's got so much rhythm.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Now, did you pick up guitar from him at all? Did he ever show you?
I'm not teachable. It's like I can't dance. My mother used to try to teach me to dance.
Right.
I'm like, no, but what am I doing here?
Right.
I'll step on your feet. I can only dance with a mic stand. Oh, that was
Right.
once upon a time I could do that.
Now, so when you were with Jimmy, you were in there how long? 8 years or something?
I was there. No. When I joined the band, we had made a record. I used to go down there for the weekend. We'd record and we'd play at Antone's, and I'd go home with a lot quite a bit of money.
That's nice. Yeah.
And that was a good setup for me because I
Yeah.
had a day job back here, and I still had my gigs around here too.
Right.
And he said that he didn't want to do it without me. So I said, well, I want to do this, man. I did it with him for 2010 to 2012.
Okay.
And it wasn't, it's not that it wasn't great. I just, I had this other thing inside of me that I wasn't doing anymore.
Right.
I had to
do your solo stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I understand that. One more question before I know you got to run.
Yeah.
When you guys did that record with the T-Birds, I know that stuff didn't get issued right away.
Someday and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't.
Do you know what
involved.
the story was on that?
Kim wanted to be the kind of the running joke about Roomful and the T-Birds.
Right.
Kim wanted to be the Roomful, and we wanted to be the T-Birds.
Ah, interesting.
We ruined each other.
Okay, all right. So you guys kind of ruined each other. Okay, that's interesting. It's great stuff, man.
Yeah, it's
really great. And they didn't get issued till fairly recently, as I recall.
I haven't even heard it.
I think it's like a bootleg that's out there or something.
It's got Roll, Roll, Roll on it.
Yeah, I think it's got Someday, like you say, by Smiley. That's a great song. Yeah. And he did the hell out of Smiley. He could really sing Smiley.
Yeah.
Better than just about anybody. All right, so I'm back here with Gregg Piccolo. We're in Westerly, Rhode Island. What were the biggest venues you did with Clapton?
I left. We did the Crossroads thing out in Chicago.
Okay.
That's
That's pretty big.
It was like 30,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the biggest crowd I ever played in front of. But
Yeah.
It's like surreal.
I bet it is surreal. Yeah, I would think so.
You're just up there. That's
right. Just close your eyes.
I like little rooms.
Yeah, I hear you. Little rooms. I don't know about you, but I've always kind of felt like small rooms are really the key to what blues feels comfortable in, when it really comes right down to it.
Yeah, I guess, compared to Guns N' Roses, it makes more sense in a small room.
Right, exactly. Because you got the intimate connection with the crowd. I've always had a hard time when people are far away, when there's that big gap between the stage and the audience.
Yeah, I don't like the stage being too high.
Right.
I want it low. And the people there, I like to see the people.
Right. And there's something about the sound that you get in a small room. It's so different than big stages. I mean, generally, that's where you're going to find your best sound.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Music and the music business don't really match.
No, they're two totally different animals, aren't they? So the other thing I wanted to get into is my favorite album that you did, which is the Heavy Juice album.
Yeah.
And that's an album, I just wore that thing out.
Yeah, it's a great record. Was
that your first solo?
Yes.
Okay.
When I did that, it was like, okay, I could have had different guests on it. I could have, had Ronnie, he was in the band, but when I thought about the music that I really wanted to do, I just said, what's the best band to do this stuff? in my mind, it was the old original Roomful guys.
Right.
And me being, for the first time, actually using them as my band.
Right.
You know, and that's why the album is, I believe that's why it came out the way it did. Because it's focused on one thing, and everybody played their asses off.
They
the
did.
band.
It's a phenomenal record, man. And it's all instrumental. That's the other thing I forgot to mention.
There's a couple of I think I did I did a couple of things on there. Baby, I'm Gone. I think Hammond insisted on it. Hammond Scott. I didn't want to do any.
Yeah, Baby, I'm Gone is a great one. And I gotta say, it's funny. I mean, with most people, it's kind of like there's certain numbers that just totally fit your style. How was Hammond to work with? Because I talk to Hammond all the time.
Oh,
Hammond Scott, we're talking about at Blacktop Records.
He was fantastic. He pretty much stayed out of the way, but everyone was conscious of him being there, and the band just did it. We just knocked it off.
Yeah,
it was a two sessions.
Well, it's kind of your ode to all the original influences, isn't it?
Yeah. It's absolutely
Lester Young, Red Prysock.
Yeah, I was when I do those homage. My next one after that, the sax record was homage, and that was all instrumentals.
Right.
And it was the same continuation of that, only it was with a quartet. So.
Right. Well, it's a killer, man, and you sounded great last night too, sitting in, man.
Yeah, it felt good. It's easy to play with guys who can play.
Yeah.
Because I only know 3 notes. I play the same 3 notes.
And you get paid the most for each note.
I make more than any other sax player per note.
Yeah. But, let's talk a little bit about some of the, I always love hearing war stories about like Roomful and bands like that. And now, did you get Porky in there, Porky Cohen?
We asked him if he wanted to join, and he did. And, he was always great. He didn't, he was just a real player.
Yeah. And he was okay being in a van being in a bookmobile with a bunch of youngsters.
He used to say, "You'll get yours someday, Piccolo," and he was right. But he retired at 65. He joined the band, I think, when he was in his 50s, and he was the old guy in the band.
Right.
I think 65 is when you retire.
Right. Right. Right.
So he left, and it wasn't the same after Porky left.
And then did you hire Ronnie straight out of Duke's departure?
Yes.
Ronnie
called me up and told me that he was interested, and that I was interested too.
Yeah.
We never talked about Ronnie yesterday, and I did want to say that when I compare the 3 guys, Duke, Ronnie, and Jimmy. Duke was the encyclopedia.
Oh God! Yes.
Jimmy was the inventor, and Ronnie played one note, and you knew who he was.
Right.
It was like
kind of like it. Anson's got that same quality. Yeah.
And it's all he needed. Just play that note.
Right. Well, I never saw the band with Duke. I only saw you guys with Ronnie. I think every time I saw you guys.
Yeah, we never went on the road extensively until after Duke left.
Right. But I heard when we were talking about the T-Birds and you guys, and I heard that those guys were instrumental in kind of getting you guys out on the road in terms of playing in Texas and places like that. I don't know about California or not, but I don't think you guys came out to California with Duke, did you?
No.
Yeah.
I went to my mailbox at the post office in Bradford, Rhode Island one day, and there was a postcard, and there was nothing written on it. It was just this guy on the front standing out in the field with a long beard. It was Billy Gibbons. I didn't even know who he was.
Right, right.
And there was nothing written on the card, so I just thought, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
And he was the guy who brought us to Texas for the first
Billy
time.
Gibbons?
Yeah. We played at some
Wow.
disco in Houston that
Really?
he rented out or something, and
Ah. Did he get people there?
it was ridiculous. Basically we were there because he wanted to hear us.
That's kind of like Mick Jagger kind of shit, isn't it?
Well, I've never experienced Mick.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, we got to play with Count Basie on the bill.
Wow.
With Count Basie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We played Roseland Ballroom,
Right.
Opening for Count Basie.
That's
Lockjaw
heavy
was
duty,
on
man.
tenor
That is
with
so
Basie.
heavy. Yeah.
Al Gray on trombone, and
Wow.
you know, it was. That's the kind of stuff that.
Right.
And
And
when we played with Cleanhead Vincent, we were
Right.
backing him up, and Jimmy Witherspoon.
yeah,
Witherspoon.
Big Joe.
Yeah, Big Joe. But the one that really we meshed with the best, we were backing those guys up. And,
Right.
and you know, it was the same style of music.
Mm-hmm.
But Roy Brown was the one.
Oh God, yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the missing element
Yeah.
of what we need.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, he died.
Wow. Yeah, I saw him about a year before he died. And I saw him a couple times, and he was so spectacular.
Yeah.
And it was almost like he'd been like, you know, in this time capsule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we were kind of in a time capsule too. We were
Right.
trying to be in a time capsule. And it really was like we were a band.
God, it's a shame you guys never got to record with him.
Yeah, that's,
You know.
it's a lot of shames that happen.
Did you guys play gigs with Spoon too, Jimmy Witherspoon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and let's see, we played at the Blue Note in New York
Okay.
with Jimmy Witherspoon, and it might have been Jimmy McCracklin. There was somebody else on the bill too.
Really? Wow.
And it was the day that Benny Goodman had passed away.
Really?
And I remember, you know, getting on stage, and you know, I almost said Benny King instead of Benny Goodman. I was so nervous because the Blue Note was like a prestigious, and it's so good.
Absolutely.
But it was great.
Well, the Roseland Ballroom, that's really pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was special to me.
Yeah, that's really special.
We've rubbed shoulders. We backed up Helen Humes.
Wow.
You know, and she had Ellis Larkins with her playing piano.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with her.
He was an amazing piano player, and you know, Joe Turner. We had Lloyd Glenn one time. You know.
Okay, yeah, I played with Lloyd one time. Yeah.
He was a great guy.
Yeah. Did you ever play with Lowell?
No, never did.
Yeah, I did a gig one time with Lowell, Lloyd Glenn, and Earl Goodrock and Brown, which was pretty incredible, except that Lowell broke a string.
Hey.
That didn't help.
I broke 4 strings in one song.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I kept on going.
That's pretty good. So
'Cause I
you were
only know
2-string
3
Sam
notes.
on that one. How did the Founders come about?
Al.
That was because Al
he
Copley?
spearheaded that whole thing.
Okay.
And he just said, we should, you know, time's gone by and we should get together and do this thing. And he was right. But, you know, everyone was in their own thing at that point, you know, and it was hard to get the Founders. And the Founders are...
Because everybody's so busy.
Who are the founders? You know, like...
Of the Constitution.
Yeah. Al made the name up.
Oh, did he?
And
Were you Benjamin Franklin?
I don't know.
It seems like you guys have had kind of an incestuous relationship off and on for quite a while in terms of playing on each other's records.
Yes, and yeah.
You know, Dukes or...
yeah, sometimes it drives you crazy
Also,
thinking, okay, it's like the cast of characters in this area. In this area, sometimes I say, well, I want to get out of it completely.
Right.
You know, I love those guys, and you know, Duke is the best at what he does, but I would always, whenever I played with Duke, whatever you want, Duke. That's basically how
I see.
I
So
do
it's
that.
kind of like it's still his band.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's the guru.
He's the guy you're going to defer to.
Yeah, and rightly so.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, God, I mean, you guys go back how many years?
Well, to when I was 13 is when I met him. So
Yeah.
it's
And you're 73 now.
60 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible, man. It's really amazing. So what do you got going these days? I mean, are you doing like a quartet still, or?
Well, it was a trio.
That's what I remember.
It's been
Yeah,
a
when you were
trio.
playing guitar. Yeah.
And my keyboard player plays great left-handed bass.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
he's been with me for 25 years. Shinichi Otsu.
Oh, cool. Is he from Japan?
Yeah,
Wow.
but he lives. He's over here.
Mm-hmm.
And he was fresh out of Berkeley when first time I played with him. And we had a gig in New York City, and I went up and met Shinichi on Friday, and the gig was on Saturday. It was at Chicago Blues in New York City.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I loved playing there.
Yeah,
That was a
yeah.
great place.
I liked it too.
It was my favorite place.
With all
to
the
play.
sofas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I dropped my CDs off. I said, these are the songs I do. These are the keys I do them in. See you tomorrow night. And he came.
And he nailed it.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was like, whoa, yeah,
That's
the same
amazing.
thing. And he did
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. Who's your drummer?
Steve Langone. He's from
Okay.
Boston as well. And
Yeah.
they both teach at Berkeley, Shinichi and Steve.
Okay.
Steve is excellent. He's so, he can do anything.
So what's your radius in terms of the gigs you guys do?
If the gig makes sense, I'll go anywhere.
Mhm.
That's kind of, but
Right.
I can't book a tour.
Right.
There's no, it was so much easier in the old days. I mean,
Sure.
You book a day, okay, it's a good gig. I know I can fill in the spaces, but
Right.
that's going away.
It sure, it
You're
hasn't
still doing-
completely gone away, but it's close to going away.
Yeah, but
I'm like persistent as all get out.
Yeah,
so,
I can tell
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
You gotta be.
Yeah.
I can't see it. God bless you. That's all
Well,
I can
thank
say.
you. I mean, to be able to work every night of the week on a tour still is kind of a phenomenon. And I'm able to do it somehow. I don't know how, but
Well,
I'm just, like I say, it's persistence for me.
who would have thought that a little harmonica
Could go so far and make so much loud noise.
Oh man.
Well, we still love it though, don't we? I mean, don't we still love playing?
That's why I do it.
Yeah.
I love to play. It's not about business for me at this
Right.
point. It's about playing for people who want to hear music. I still want to go places and be places where
Mhm.
people have never heard it before, and
Right.
I feel like I can do it. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not driven to. I have a manager,
Right.
Bonnie Tall.
Bonnie. Yeah, I know Bonnie.
And she came back a couple of years ago, and after I begged her for years,
Right. Right.
please manage,
Right. Well, you've been with her off and on for years, right?
Yeah, after I left Roomful, I found
Right.
her, we found
Right.
each other,
Yeah.
and she's amazing.
Yeah. That's great.
Totally amazing.
That's great. Does she have many clients? I know Gabe Stillman was with her for a while.
Yeah, I don't think she nurtured him and got him
Right.
going
I think
on his
she's
own
not
thing.
doing it anymore. Yeah. Right.
I'm kind of like unfinished business. She doesn't like to fail, so
Well, that's, that's great. That's what you need.
yeah.
That's what you need. Does she manage in book or mainly just manage, or how's that work?
Did she manage?
You said she manages you. Does she also book the jobs for you, or
Well,
how's that work?
she does the follow. I have an agent. It's Chip Denton. His name is.
Okay, so she
And
kind of keeps
she-
with him.
He gets the gigs, but she makes them happen.
She makes them happen. I got you. Yeah, that's what a manager's really good for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's relentless.
Well, good. You need that.
I know.
You definitely need that, man. And we had a ball last night. I was so glad you came down and played with us.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just great listening to you and being up there, because it was like everyone's just doing the right thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's.
That makes it so easy,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Yeah, yeah.
I remember when Luann made her first solo record after she
Right.
left Roomful. Jerry Wexler
Right.
signed her
Atlantic.
to in Muscle Shoals, and
Right.
Glenn Fry was the producer
Was
of the
he?
record.
I didn't know
And
that.
She insisted on them calling me up to be on the record,
Cool.
to a couple of songs,
Right.
and I could tell it wasn't working when I got there. Luann said, "Pick, just be you." I said, "I'm being me, Luann. This doesn't swing at all."
Right,
You know?
right.
It's like, and I was overdubbing on stuff that they had already done. So
Right.
it was like,
This ain't
you
it.
can't, you don't know what to do.
Right,
It's-
right. So what happened? I mean, did they?
Well, I did. I played.
did
I
the
think it
best
was-
you could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I got to play.
Yeah.
Sat in with Junior Walker one time at the Lone Star on 52nd Street, and it was so great. And he was, he sat in with us, and he was like, yeah, he loved playing, with
Oh,
us
cool,
too.
man. How cool.
And he was like, I said, yeah, that was so great. He said, "You're great." I said, "No, you're great."
No, you're greater.
he was, for what he did it better than anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.